Hello, and welcome to the Blaise XPerience. If you're joining us today, we are back for episode 11 of the podcast. Today, we are talking about a new game for the podcast. We are going to be talking about State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2, as of this recording, has not released yet, but it's going to release in a few days. And this is a game the podcast will be covering fairly frequently. I wouldn't say probably every week, but we're going to try to cover it hopefully at least once or twice a month, I'd say. So this is going to be more of an intro episode on State of Decay 2. It's basically going to be kind of some of the basics of the franchise itself, kind of the mechanics a little bit of the franchise, nothing too in-depth yet, and also some of the new things that are going to be in State of Decay 2. This will be just more of an intro episode to kind of get you used to what the game is, just in case you're new and you don't know the franchise at all. This will be kind of describing the franchise a little more. And then future episodes that talk about State of Decay 2 will get a little bit more into detail of things. So we'll get into more detail on those episodes and dive deeper into the strategy of the game. But this will be more of an intro, just kind of touching lightly on the surface of the new items, basically. But without further ado, I do have a guest here today. This guest is someone that had a lot of experience with the original game. He played a lot of State of Decay when it came out, and he will be playing State of Decay 2. He's a friend of mine, and I'm happy to introduce our guest today, Vision Zombie. How are you, Vision?
Hi, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. So you excited for State of Decay 2?
Yeah, I've been looking out for it for about 3 months now. Been following it not too much, but yeah, been looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I know you played a lot more of the original game than I did, but I'm definitely looking forward to some of the new features in State of Decay 2, and they sound really cool.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I mean, kind of getting into your background with the franchise a little bit, how much time do you think you sunk into the original game?
I think I've played it on and off. Like one day, one week I played non-stop, another I just don't play for a month. But I think in total about 200 hours, give or take.
Which is definitely a lot. I mean, for me, I only touched the surface of the original game. I probably play between, I'd say, like maybe less than 25 hours. So I didn't really play it that often. So I'm definitely looking to get into this new version a lot more than that. So when you played the original, what were your thoughts on that?
At first I thought, hey, let's just do it. It was free on Game Pass, so I just downloaded it, and yeah, I just started playing. And once I started the opening, I really liked combat, like in the first section, let's say, when you and your buddy come from the fishing. I really liked combat. That's what kept me playing, and yeah, I just went through it, and yeah, I started to really like it, and the whole idea of zombie survival and death is actually permadeath.
Yeah, which I think the permanent death part is actually really cool with this game because a lot of games, if you die, you just hit the restart button or you just spawn right back in. But this game, if your character dies, your character is gone. You don't have that character anymore, which I think is a really cool aspect of this game.
Yeah, definitely. You can't even restart the game, like can't save or save and load.
Right. I mean, you can obviously keep playing the game, but you just have to use a different character because you don't have that same character anymore. So if you
Yeah,
spent all your time on one character and that one character dies, then you're pretty much starting at square one again.
yeah. I actually played the game like the starting intro like 15 times at this point.
But going forward a little bit with it, what do you think will be this new version of the franchise? Do you think it'll push the franchise forward a little bit more with State of Decay 2?
Yeah, definitely. With the way more personalized characters, like every character has a backstory, which the first one, in my opinion, kind of lacked a bit. Yeah, I think it's gonna be real amazing, especially the map size, which is gonna increase.
Definitely. Which I think the map size just alone will actually really help the game because you have a lot more you can do with it.
Yeah, definitely. In the first one, it wasn't that big. Like, get a car, other side of the map in like 5 minutes. So I'm really looking forward to exploring.
Which you did mention cars too, and I think that's something sort of unique to the State of Decay franchise as well, because a lot of other zombie survival games you can't actually drive cars in those games.
Yeah, definitely. It was that you couldn't really customize them. That was too bad because I really want a certain paint job, which looked absolutely amazing. But yeah, the cars were a good feature.
Well, maybe you didn't find the spray can. You got to find the spray paint in there.
Seriously? Oh damn.
No, I'm just messing with
Oh, good.
you. But that would be kind of cool though if you could find like a can of spray paint and you just spray paint your car yourself.
Yeah, and then craft it yourself or a certain workstation at your base.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's an idea they could look into in the future. Like maybe you get a can of spray paint in the world, and once you get it, you take it back to your base and like you take the car into the shop or something, and you kind of like detail it.
Yeah, and even maybe like upgrade the engine, certain parts, maybe the tires.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, for
Maybe
zombie-proof
you can
windows.
somehow outfit like a bigger gas tank so you can actually hold more gas in there.
Yeah, I mean the first one it was kind of I never really refueled a car. I know that was a feature, but I never did it because I just drive and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, we will get into that a little bit more when we talk about the new features, but that is something that is new. In the State of Decay 2, you actually have to refuel your car. In the first game, you didn't have to.
Yeah,
So that is going to be something that's a little bit more challenging for the game, but I think it adds a good challenge to the game because if you think about it, I mean, if you're surviving the zombie apocalypse, like, fuel's just not going to just run on trees. I mean, you have to actually find fuel to run those cars.
yeah, exactly. It's a good challenge because in the first one, once you got loaded up a bit, it was kind of easy.
Right, because I mean, if you're halfway across the map and you forgot to bring an extra can of gas with you, you could be screwed because you have to actually trek back on foot all the way back to your camp.
Yeah, and then the stamina decay after a certain while, and then zombie hordes come.
Right. But about the franchise overall, what do you like about the franchise that differs from other zombie survival games?
Um, that you can switch characters mostly, and my personal favorite is that you can have a different character for very specific goals. Like one is for gathering, who can carry extra shit, and another one is just great at fighting. Another one is great at shooting. That's probably my favorite part. And then
Yeah, I think that's really nice too.
once you actually lose character, you lose completely like your gathering side, and it really puts a dent on you.
Right, definitely. Because if you have someone like, say, you're a really good fighter, if your really good fighter goes down, then you might not have a backup fighter already made. So you basically have to start from scratch with someone that's not very good at fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that actually cost me a few downfalls before.
Like losing your fighter specifically, or
Yeah, what I mean is that I get a bit too attached to the characters, and once I lose one or multiple, I just restart the game, no matter how far I got.
yeah, I mean, I never got far enough in the game where I had that kind of feeling where I lost multiple ones, but I can see why that would be kind of frustrating in some ways. But it also does make the game more real, where you really have to protect your characters.
Yes, exactly. It's quite amazing.
Is there anything else you feel is really different about the franchise itself?
I think the types of zombies. You have different types of zombies, and yeah, it wasn't too creative in the first one, but it was pretty good. Like it actually added a challenge, and not just hey, here's a zombie, shoot it, and instead you actually had to figure out how to deal with them.
Right, definitely. And you can correct me on this too, but I'm not sure if it was in the first game, but I know in State of Decay 2, there's this zombie where if you run into it with your car, it actually has a poison gas cloud that explodes.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the same, but it slowly damaged me over time.
Yes, that's really interesting because basically, if that happens to you in the game, then you have to pretty much get out of your car or else you're going to die from the poison gas.
Yes, and in the first one you just get in a car and you're invincible. Like you see a horde, you just drive straight through it and you're fine. And it added like a great depth to the game that you don't just get in a car and drive.
Right, because that wouldn't actually happen in the real world. I mean, a zombie could get stuck in your tires or who knows what, so. And I know in terms of the car aspect too, I mean, using the cars versus the Juggernaut can actually stand up to a car pretty well.
Yeah, it actually broke my car once.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like little clips where they actually just like move the entire car. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, you meet like all the different zombies and like the well, if you really try the story, then you meet them all in the first 2 hours, and after that it's just well, same old, same old. So
Right.
I hope they do something with that.
I mean, I think the story is going to be more evolved in the second version, so I think that will be good. Like, one of the things we can kind of get into right now about the second version is sort of how the game starts, basically, because I know in the first one, you pretty much just start with these two guys and you don't really have a choice in that. But in State of Decay 2, you actually have a choice of your starting characters.
Yes, that I'm curious how that's gonna play out. Like if you're playing co-op and there's two same characters, I'm wondering if they're gonna do anything with that.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second, but co-op will be a little bit different for the game. But just going back to the starting characters real quick, there's basically four different pairs you can start with. I don't know if you've checked this out at all.
Yeah, I know a few. The brother and sister, the lesbians, the old buddies, and the couple like that meet in the zombie apocalypse.
Yes. So basically, as you just said, there's four different pairings you can choose. There's the surly siblings, which is a brother and sister, like you said. There's the odd couple. The odd couple is basically a couple that met after the apocalypse started, and they kind of grew together with that. There's one called Perpetual Breakup, which is a female female couple that constantly broke up and got back together. And they're basically together at this time, but it says in the text, they could break up again at any time. And then there's the one that's like called Longtime Friends, where that one, it's kind of interesting dynamic because one of the friends always causes trouble or gets the other into trouble. So I think they really have some nice backstories that will be nice for players to actually choose which one they want to start and which one they want to have the backstory for.
Yes, and also in the first one, it felt kind of bland to characters, some of them, and I think the dynamic, like brother and sister, is can be great. Like give them personality and don't just make them feel like AI.
Right, definitely. I think honestly all four of these pairings will be really interesting to play. I think personally I'm probably going to go with the brother and sister just because I want to try that dynamic out. I don't know which one you're going to choose probably when you first start.
I'm actually gonna try the odd couple. I just like the name Rose.
Yeah,
That's all
that'll
basically.
definitely be a fun one, I think. I mean, I think their dynamic will be really cool because they met after the apocalypse already started. So I think in some ways that pairing will actually have a stronger bond because they already knew what they're getting into. They don't have anything else to fall back on before this. So I think their bond could actually be a little stronger than some of the other ones.
Yes, exactly, and yeah, I'm just curious how everything's gonna play out.
Although I will say, even though I'm probably not going to pick this one, I do think the perpetual breakup with the female female couple, that would probably be really interesting to play because with that one, I mean, there's probably so much tension involved in that relationship that as you're going throughout the story, there's probably going to be a lot of tense moments with those two.
Yeah, and I think they definitely will break up in the game, but that's just my guess.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, it'd be really interesting too if you actually had one of these pairings and you lost one person in the pair, how the other one would react to that.
Yeah, like the brother and sister. Like, let's say the brother died, the sister would be devastated, and I think it will be an emotional moment. I really hope they do something with that.
Yeah, definitely. Which with the brother and sister pair too, which I think is really interesting, is basically looking at their stats. I haven't looked at all the stats like too heavily, but I've noticed that the stats for the sister are a lot better than the brother. So it seems like she's going to be kind of carrying that relationship, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, some characters start off with better skills, but others have higher potential. And I think the brother has a high potential, like the skills he can learn.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I mean, I think he could become a great character in the game over time, but I think the sister starts out as a better character when you first start the game, probably.
Yes, that would also be my guess.
And then we didn't touch on this one as much yet, but just to touch on the longtime friends a little more. I think that dynamic will be interesting if you want to try that one, mainly because you have the one friend that's like kind of always fixing the other friend's messes. So I think there's some really interesting dynamics that could actually get into with that. Maybe the friend that always is fixing the messes, maybe at some point in the story he actually makes a mistake and the other friend has to step up. So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and actually some character development. It would be fun, yeah.
So honestly, I think whatever pair you choose out of these four, anyone that's listening and starting the game up, I think you're going to have a fun time playing any of these four pairs. I think all of them have really interesting storylines,
Yeah, I think some of them are gonna be way more interesting than others, but yeah, I think they're all pretty great.
which is good too, because that kind of shows that the developers of this game actually put a lot of thought into the storyline of these characters. And it seems like it's a lot more developed than the first game was. So it seems like whatever characters you get, they're going to have a really cool backstory that you can explore.
Yeah, I hope a lot of backstory and that they can find that you can find diaries in the world,
That'd be really cool too, actually.
like a collectible for the really hardcore fans and seekers.
No, that'd be really cool, actually. I mean, I know where there's like collectibles that if you pre-order with like a certain company, like with Amazon or Microsoft, you get like all these different pre-order exclusives with those. But
Oh. Are you gonna get any?
I'm not personally. I'm gonna just be playing the game on Game Pass. It would be nice to pre-order it, but I decided to go the route of just doing the Game Pass. That way, I can play a lot more games that are coming out. So I'm gonna do that instead, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's also what I'm doing actually.
Pre-order bonuses though are really cool if you have the money and you want to do it. I mean, the game is actually fairly cheap for a lot of new games. It's only $30, so that's not that bad compared to some games. But yeah, personally, if I was picking and I was going to pre-order, I would recommend the Amazon pre-order just because really like the Amazon. It's like a Jeep I think it has for them, and it's a really cool looking Jeep. So that's probably what I would go with.
Quite interesting that they would do that. Huh.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was one that I really didn't like. I think it was like the Walmart pre-order pack that just really didn't spark my interest, but maybe it'll spark somebody else's interest, but
Pre-order now, you'll
that's why
get
they
a
had different
shopping
ones.
cart.
That would actually be really funny. And your friend just pushes you down the hill or something.
Yeah, just go down a lane of zombies like it's your grocery. Pick some milk, pick some eggs.
Exactly. Just pick up some zombie heads on the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started getting into some of the new features for State of Decay 2 earlier, so we can kind of go into those a little bit more in depth. You did mention the bigger map size earlier, so just to expand that a little more, basically the map this time it's going to be 3 different counties, but all the counties will be the same size or bigger than the original map. So you're going to have a lot more area to explore this time.
Yeah, and I hope certain areas has certain zombies, like special zombie types, exclusively to that area.
I kind of feel like they wouldn't do that, but I mean, it's possible they would. I think they'd disperse all the types of zombies throughout every area, but you never know. I mean, we'll see how they end up doing it.
Yeah.
I'm a little hazy on how it's exactly going to work with this map type. Basically, from what I know so far, and this could be a little bit off, I think what you're allowed to do is when you're done with one map or like you want to move on, you can just pack up your community and move on to the next map and kind of, start a new base there. So I think it's going to be seamless where you can actually, you're in one county, you can drive right into the next county if you wanted to. I think that's how it's going to work, but I could be wrong on that, and you could have to actually, you know, back out of the game and like start in a new community. But I think it's going to be where you can actually drive throughout all 3 of them at the same time.
I don't think you have to start over. I mean, that would really raise some eyebrows by fans. I think that
Right? Yeah,
you
I don't
can
think
do
you
it,
have to
but
either.
you'd have like in the first game you have influence, and that's basically what you can do with the community, how much influence you have. And I think change to a new county is gonna take let's say 1,000 influence, and it'd be really hard to get. And once you get it, it's pretty rewarding.
That's true. That's probably how they do that. Which I kind of feel like you'd be able to explore the next county before you change over if you wanted to. Like, say, you're really running low on supplies in your county. Maybe you have to explore the other county to get more supplies. So you have to go on a really long run. And then it becomes even more important to, like, actually bring gas with you and stuff.
It's probably gonna be a loading screen. I mean, most games are loading screens these days. But yeah, I think the loading screen's gonna take like half gas, which would be fair.
Yeah. No, I think it could be that. So we'll see how they end up doing it for sure. I mean, I've tried to figure out the deep specifics on it, but it doesn't seem like, from what I've seen so far, that they've announced exactly how that's going to work, but I think it's going to be fairly seamless, so that's nice. So yeah, one of the other features that you mentioned a little bit earlier that everyone's really excited about for this game is co-op. In the first version of State of Decay, there was no co-op at all, and a lot of players wanted that. Now in State of Decay 2, you can play with up to 4 players in the same game with you, which is awesome, and I'm really excited for that, and I'm sure as someone that played State of Decay 1, you're probably excited for it too.
Yes, definitely. I actually thought Civ Game 1 was co-op when I first started, so I actually bugged my friends a lot, like, oh, play with me, and they said, like, no, it's not multiplayer, and I was pretty
Right.
disappointed. So I'm
Yeah, it
looking
definitely would
forward
be.
to playing with people.
I mean, a couple interesting things with the co-op, how it's going to work. Basically, say I jump into your game, right? How it's going to work is I have to choose a survivor from my community to play in your game. But the interesting thing for players to note and be wary of, if I take my best person into your game and they die in your game, they're dead in my game too. So that's important to note.
Some people are so gonna have fun with that.
I mean, like trying to kill the other person's
Oh
players,
yeah,
or
definitely. I already know I'm gonna do it.
well, then I guess I won't be playing in your game, will I?
Nah, I won't do it to you.
I hope not. But I mean, on that note, like I probably wouldn't use your very best people in somebody else's game. Maybe use like one of your mid-tier characters that you leveled up a little bit, but they're a decent enough character that you can help your friends. I probably wouldn't use your top ones though, just because it's kind of risky. But I mean, if you want to, then I guess go for it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna use like my top character and just back out when it gets too risky.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work with the backing out, but maybe you can do that. Maybe you have to like be away from a certain area. I don't know, but I do know though that when you join someone else's game, you can't stray too far from the host, which is kind of annoying. So maybe they'll fix that at some point. But say like you drove over somewhere and I was running on foot, I can't be too far away from you, so you can't really go off on like different directions. You have to stay sort of close to the host.
I really hope they fix that, but if they don't, I hope they increase the size of which you can be out together. Like in some games, it's like you have to hold the hands and then you won't get kicked. But I hope they
Right.
won't do that.
Yeah, because if they limited it all the way, then basically you'd have more variety where like you could go off on a mission on one area of the map, I could go off on another mission on another area of the map, and we could meet up later. That'd be kind of cool, but you can't actually do that because you can't stray far enough from the host.
Yeah, and scavenging would be so much faster.
Oh, definitely. Which I'm glad you brought that up though, because that's one of the things. All resources go to the host player. So if you found, some medical supplies or whatever you found, it's going to go directly to the host player. So that's one thing to note.
What about guns?
I didn't read about guns. I'm not sure on that one. So who knows with guns, but it might go to the host player as well.
I
I'm
really
not
hope
sure on that
not,
one though.
because that gives like no, it's totally not rewarding to the player who joins. Then there'd be fights all over from, no, you're gonna join me, no, you're gonna join me, and that'd be annoying.
Well, from what I could gather so far, it sounds like the incentive for someone to join your game, like say I was joining your game, it sounds like my incentive to do so is that I can earn rewards and XP faster for my characters that way. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, that's actually rewarding then.
Yeah, so basically it sounds like you can actually level your characters faster by helping your friends in their game. You won't get any of the resources, and you won't actually get any progress in your game, but it sounds like you can actually level your character a little faster that way.
That's yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
But one of the last notes I had on co-op, how it's going to work, there's a couple different settings you can use. For example, you can set your setting to default, where if you're playing in a game, say you see that I'm online, you can automatically jump into my game if you're on my friends list. So you can just jump in, help me out, and then jump back out or something. Or you can set it to private, where if you set it to private, then no one can join unless you specifically invite them. But I think that default setting is really cool because you could just be out in a mission, and then all of a sudden, oh, my friend joined. Cool. So that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it'd be like a nice surprise when. Oh wow.
Right, exactly. I think you'd probably have to be careful, though, if you set it to default, who you have as your friends, because if you have, like, a friend that's, known for griefing a lot, then you might not want them to join your game, so.
I feel oddly targeted right now.
Yeah, well, it could be you. Who knows? I mean, I know you target some of our other friends, but
He deserves it.
not to name names, but. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting that they did co-op that way, where you can actually choose how you want to play it. And if you set it to private, you could just wait for your friends to come on and invite them when you want to. Maybe like you don't really want to talk to anyone at the moment, so you just set it to private. That way, no one can join you. But it's nice that they actually give you that option.
Yeah, definitely. Some people just prefer their privacy, and is glad they offer it.
And I mean, honestly, like just attacking a horde of zombies with 4 people, that's going to be so much fun. Just, to take them all out together.
Yeah, the combat, like, I hope there's not too much lag though.
I kind of feel like there wouldn't be. I mean, co-op is one of the biggest features that are like touted for this game, so I would hope they'd have it all the kinks worked out for it.
Yeah, let's hope so. Not another game with server issues, I hope.
But one of the other cool features that's going to be in this game, there was obviously bases in the first game, but there's going to be a lot more options for them this time. There's going to be a lot more in-depth things you can do at your base and different like areas you can build. I didn't write down all of them because there's a lot, but just to name off a few of the different ones you can build a kitchen, a workshop, you can build an infirmary, a garden, a still, a trade depot, a sniper tower, a shooting range, just things like that. Do any of these sound like ones that weren't in the first game? Because I didn't get that far in the first game, so I don't know which ones were in the first game, which ones weren't.
Only the still wasn't in the first game. The rest, all of them are in the first game.
Okay, so the still is the only
I
new
mean,
one that
maybe
you've
not
seen?
the shooting range.
I know they all sound really interesting, though, and some of these are seemingly leader-based, which is something that's very new and interesting to this game. Basically, if you get character to a hero status, you can assign one leader status, and they can be leader of your community. And basically, if you assign them as leader, there's supposed to be like some, I guess, leader specific missions you can go on that are like little side missions. But also, in addition to that, each leader has their own set of like bonuses. And it sounds like 4 of these, I guess, mods you call them, basically are set to different leaders. Like you can build a trade depot if you have a certain type of leader. You can build a sniper tower if you have a certain kind of leader. So that's actually kind of cool. So you can choose what you want to build and choose a leader around that as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's gonna be a lot of tactic in this game, which the first one kind of lacked.
I think it's a really interesting dynamic with that leader aspect too, because say, God forbid your leader actually died, then you have to choose a whole new leader. And say you had a leader that was, based on being a warlord and they just wanted to kill everything in sight. Maybe you don't really have another good warlord leader. So maybe you have to choose a leader that's more, I guess, trade based. And maybe you have a trade leader next, and your whole outlook has to switch now. So your whole outlook of playing the game has to switch to match that leader style.
Yeah, there's definitely gonna switch things up and take away the blandness that was in the first game after a couple of hours.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think, like you kind of said, this is going to add a lot of replayability to the game. I mean, I think the RPG aspects of this game are definitely a lot more advanced than the first game, so that's going to add a lot of replayability.
Yes, definitely. I hope I only won't have to do the opening like 15 times again.
Well, it's funny you actually say that because I don't know if you knew this, but the starting characters we talked about, basically, if you restart the game or like you actually restarted your scenario, then what happens is instead of choosing those starting characters, you actually have the option to choose a randomly generated set of 3 characters. So if you really didn't like some of these starting characters, you could actually just go back in, and I'm not sure how the process works exactly, but if you just restart it again, then you could have a randomly generated set of 3 characters instead.
I hope they don't make it too overpowered, like if you just randomly generate till you have the most overpowered three of all.
I kind of feel like they wouldn't be that overpowered. I mean, I think it's pretty balanced where they're still starting characters, so you still have to, start out and level them a little bit. But I mean, if there's 3 of them at the start, I would kind of think they're a little bit underpowered, probably because the starting characters that you first start with, there's 2 of them, so I think they'd be even less powered than those two that you start with normally.
Yeah, I hope they make it a little more underpowered.
Right. Which we didn't really mention it too much, but I mean, this wasn't the first game too, but one of the things I really think is cool about the franchise overall is kind of you can just meet new characters in the world, and that new character can be like the linchpin you really needed in your game. Like, say you really didn't have a farmer, and you met a character that was really great at farming. That's gonna be like, oh yes, I finally have this character that's great at farming.
I can definitely relate to that. I have spent several hours looking for specific character, and
And I have heard too that basically I don't know if it was this way as much in the first game, but I know in State of Decay 2, you want to kind of pick your enemies wisely because if you go to war with another group, then it could really affect you long term.
like bring down morality and shit.
Right. And obviously, if that group is a little bit more powerful than you are at the moment, then you could lose a bunch of survivors that way too.
Yeah, it's like the pen needs a sword or gun in this scenario.
Right. Do you have like a certain kind of play style you think you're going to try and shoot for when you first start, or do you think you're just going to kind of vary it?
I depends on what they do with the stealth. I really am a stealth type guy, but in the first one it's kind of lacking. So if they fix it in this game, then I will definitely do a stealth build. And if that isn't, I will probably do a supply build, like with endless of supplies. Well, not endless, but a lot of.
Yeah, I think kind of where I'm going to focus probably. I mean, it obviously depends on what characters I get, like what leader abilities I have and things like that. But I think the playstyle I'd like to focus on is more of a trader where I have like a leader that's trade based and I can actually have a bunch of communities that I trade with and I have access to all the supplies I need at all times.
Yeah, I meant something similar to that.
Right. Yeah, because I know when you build the trade depot we mentioned, I believe there's like a way you can actually call up other communities to come right to you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, and it'd be fun if they can actually betray you. Like you can't just betray them, but they actually betray you too.
Well, if they betray me, then it's not going to end well for them, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't betray me, because that would suck. But one of the other features that's really cool and new about State of Decay 2 is there's this new feature called the Blood Plague. Do you know a lot about this yet?
I have heard of it, but I don't really know the details.
Yeah, so basically the blood plague, it's a virus, but it also allows for a new type of zombies as well. So these new zombies, they're basically infected with the blood plague virus, and they have red eyes, glowing, they're all red and everything. And basically this virus, if too many of these zombies hit you, then you contract the blood plague disease, and essentially, if you contract that disease, eventually your survivor is going to become a zombie and you're going to have to kill them or cure them. So, the only way to cure them is to get samples of the blood plague and to have. I forget exactly what building you need, but it's some kind of like medical building, I think, within the infirmary. But basically, if you have to have that all set up, and you have to have samples of the blood plague in order to cure somebody. So, say your best survivor was named Jim or something, and Jim contracted the blood plague, he's definitely going to die unless you can cure him, which is kind of really cool, actually.
Yeah,
But another thing with the blood plague too is there's plague hearts, and these plague hearts are basically, it's described as like kind of mounds of flesh, and these hearts are what sort of give life to these plague zombies. So basically, you have to go around destroying these plague hearts. If you wipe out the plague heart, then all the plague zombies associated with that heart, they're kind of in the area, they'll all die as well.
I've actually
But
seen some gameplay of that. It seems a certain weapon, I think was the grenade launcher or anything, or something, is really powerful against it. But yeah, I'm curious to see if there's gonna be like the different playstyles to get to it.
yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it's a lot more intense because with the plague heart, if you start attacking it at all, then a horde of zombies is going to come right to you because it kind of makes sense in a way. Because if you look at it as this is the heart of those zombies, if you're attacking that heart, all those zombies are going to come to protect that. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and then maybe have a buddy like distract him or anything. And yeah, it'd be fun. Like the challenge and the sense of I have to get this to revive him or cure him.
Right, because that's the only way you can get plague samples is by the plague. Actually, I say the only way. It's not the only way. I mean, the main way you can get the samples is from the plague heart, but I think I did hear somewhere that you can find them on the zombies themselves or in the world, but I think that's more rare. The plague heart, if you destroy, you'll always get samples. Finding the plague samples other ways is not always guaranteed.
I really hope you just have to I don't know that your character also gets infected and well that's not what I hope, but that your character also gets infected and you have to choose who gets the cure.
Oh, I mean, if you have like two infected at once?
Yeah, like one got infected, another one gets to get it, and the one who tried to get it got infected.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, actually, and that'd be kind of a hard choice because you're going to grow attached to these characters, and then basically you're almost dooming one of them to death by not choosing them.
Yeah, and then let's say the brother and sister have to choose who survives and who lives, and that's gonna be pretty emotional.
Definitely. And I actually saw a video too that basically what happens is like if you can't hear someone in time, you have a couple options to do with them. You can either, exile them and just send them out of your community, or another option is you can actually execute them and basically you're just kind of putting them down because they're going to turn into a zombie. Which I saw this and it looks really brutal because you pretty much just bring him out, and the video I saw was like right next to the garden. You just shot him in the head right next to the garden. So
You could actually exile in the first game, but you couldn't execute. So I'm curious how gory it's gonna be, like how much blood.
it seemed fairly bloody. I mean, and being right next to the garden, it's like, wow, you just executed this person right next to your garden. Like,
Yeah, you have zombie vegetables now. What's it plants again? Plants versus zombies?
yeah. But I think it's interesting too because I don't know if this is in the first game as much, but it's said that like when somebody dies, it's gonna affect the rest of the community. I don't know if that applied in the first game as much, but if
Yeah,
you
it
have
did.
to like, it did.
Like
Okay,
everyone gets sad and you have to talk to people to calm them down and go out there, kill some zombies, and then bring them back, and then they just get sad again.
that sounds like it sucks then, but
Yeah, it really did suck. Like I exiled half my community just because of that reason.
yeah, and especially if you have to literally execute one of your own people, like that's probably really gonna make morale low. So
Yeah, I think there's also gonna be like dictatorship builds. Like whenever anyone just speaks a bad word about you, you just execute them.
oh, that'd be interesting. I mean, you definitely become hated pretty fast, but I mean, if you can rule with an iron fist, then maybe you can make it work.
Yeah, definitely. And it'd be pretty warning too, since they have to all give all their stuff to you.
Very true. But that's kind of what the blood plague is a little bit. I think it adds a very interesting dynamic to the game now, where it adds a new way to lose your survivors than what you had before, and it also adds more difficulty as well, because fighting these plague heart zombies is not something that it's as easy as you think it's going to be solo. I mean, I saw some videos of people trying it out, and they didn't fare that well solo. So you obviously can do it solo if you're good enough, but it's not going to be like a walk in the park. But probably the last new area I wanted to talk about is nighttime, which will be very different in State of Decay 2. Obviously, there was nighttime in the first game, but nighttime in State of Decay 2 is very much changed, where nighttime now doesn't just mean, oh, it's a purple sky or something like that, where you see in a lot of games, they just mimic night with purple sky. That way you can actually see what you're doing. Nighttime in State of Decay 2 is pretty much pitch black, and you almost can't really see very far in front of you. So it's going to make things at night very hard to do. And especially if you're attacking like a plague heart or something, it's going to be very hard to do at night.
Yeah, and you have to like sacrifice an inventory slot for a flashlight or anything, and you still don't even have your full vision back.
Right, and even like the headlights on a car, you still can't see that far in front of you. I saw some videos of people driving the car at nighttime, and even with the headlights, it's still pretty damn hard to see.
Yeah, you'd have to have like super fast reflexes to dodge stuff.
Right, definitely. So I mean, I think it's definitely going to change things a lot, which is cool, because in the real world, if this was actually happening, a lot of people wouldn't want to venture out at night as much because it's a lot more dangerous. So it actually gives you that feel in the game as well, where it's really dangerous to go out at night. So you might not go out at night unless you really have to.
Yeah, and the previous game was like, oh, it's dangerous outside, don't go outside. And I was like, mind your business. And then I just
Right.
come back and it feel like, wow, that was easy. So I'm happy they do it more realistic now.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. I mean, I think it's going to really add a new element to the game, because you might just decide to go back to your community early because it's almost going to be nighttime. So you might see, oh, shoot, it's getting dark. I better get back because you're way too far out. You don't want to be caught. I would say probably you don't want to be caught like really far away from your base at night. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, getting all the way back to your base at nighttime, that's going to be a lot more challenging. And say you didn't have enough fuel and you misjudged things, if you run out of fuel at night and you have to trek back on foot, that's going to suck.
It might actually turn into a horror game, like you have no flashlight, it's pitch black, and then just red eyes jump you. That'd be kind of
Yeah,
fun actually.
exactly. And that character could die, and you just have to find their body in the morning. So, but I would say, I mean, personally, I'll obviously try it out first, but I would say personally, unless I really have to, like, say one of my survivors is infected and I really need some, cure for them, I'm probably not going to venture out at night, like, when I first start the game. And then maybe as I get more confident with it, I'll try it out a little more.
I'll get so bored, like when you have to wait outside till morning, I'm just gonna get bored and like, well, guess I'm going out, and just seek excitement. I just can't wait that long.
But see, you might lose, like, your entire crew, in the early start of the game, and, I'll just be surviving inside.
I know, it's a risk reward thing I'm willing to make.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, then again, you also put like 200 hours into the first game. I only put like 20, so I'm gonna
Well,
want to get a little bit better at the game
I
before I do
never
that.
said I was good. I'm pretty horrible actually.
Well, you have a lot of experience with the game at least, so that's something.
Yeah, I guess that's something.
But yeah, I mean, this was more of just an intro into the game. That's like basically the main things about the franchise itself and a lot of the main new features that are going to be in the game. Did you have anything else to add that's new to the game or about the franchise itself?
Not that I can think of now.
Yes, that's pretty much what we have for this episode then. Like I said at the start, future episodes about State of Decay 2 will go a lot more in depth into certain areas. Like, for example, we might have an episode just based on one county and talk a lot about that county, or we could have an episode based on just base building itself and talk about that a lot. But future episodes will be a lot more in depth. Since this is the first episode, we wanted to get into a lot of the basics and just touch on them lightly. But I definitely appreciate you coming on, Vision. If
Yeah,
people
no
want
problem.
to Yeah, thanks. I mean, if people want to find you or get in contact with you, how would they be able to do so?
Vision Zombie on Xbox. Just how you spell normally Vision, like the sunscreen, and space zombie. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, not too bad then. So, as for me, if you want to contact me, you can contact me via email, which will be theblaisexperience@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Twitter. The podcast Twitter is Blaise XPerience, and always remember with experience, it's XP with no E at the front. And also, if you want to find me on Xbox as well, you can for sure do so. My Xbox gamer tag is Shadow of the Statue, so just find me on there as well. That's SDHW and then statue. But those are the main ways to get a hold of me or get a hold of the podcast. If you want to actually listen to the podcast, then the best way to do so is via Radio Public. Radio Public is a free app that is available on iOS and Android. It's free in all countries. And basically, this app helps support podcasters and help make like hosting fees and things like that easier for them. So definitely listen via that if you are able to. It's free to download and everything, so that would be very helpful to the podcast. But if you don't listen on there, the next best way is probably to listen to us via Apple Podcasts and leave us a review on there. Any reviews are helpful, and any feedback is definitely helpful, so we'd really appreciate that. And furthermore, we are available on plenty of other platforms as well, so if you want to listen to those, go right ahead, and we will definitely appreciate you listening. We're on Google Play, for example. We're on many other areas as well. But we definitely appreciate you listening to the podcast. And Vision, once again, I appreciate you coming to talk with us tonight.
Yeah, definitely no problem. I enjoyed myself.
But thank you to you, listener, for listening. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Blaise XPerience.